You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
PackersTalk.com.
Welcome to the Packers Weekly Podcast, part of PackersTalk.com network. I'm your host, Miles Teddick, joined by your co-host, Tim Hamill. We are diehard Packers fans, just love talking about the Pack, not getting into all of those national sports media nonsensical distractions. We're sticking to real football every week, diving into the top topics around the Pack, breaking down games during the season, and of course, sorting through all of the draft dreams and drama now of the offseason. If y'all want to support the pod, please spike that like button for us. Most importantly, jump on over to YouTube, type in Packers Talk Network, and hit that subscribe button for us. That helps us out the most and helps us find other Packers fans and helps other Packers fans find us. So if you love the Pack Weekly Pod, tell a friend. This evening, we got a little bit of we're mixing it up a little bit. It's the off season. Minicamp has really, for the most part, wrapped up. And so we thought we would invite someone to come in behind enemy lines. So we've got a Bears fan joining us, ready to defend some of the famous Bears takes of this off season. And we'll have a little back and forth. We'll see what he thinks about the sustainability of their couple wins that they had last season that they've been riding high on this offseason. But of course, we have to first stick to business. Our show is once again sponsored by Wisconsin's own Ticket King. For over 30 years, Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packers fans, as well as Bucks, Brewers, and all those other tickets. Summerfest coming up. You can find them on the web at theticketking.com or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. Remember, support all of those local businesses, Wisconsin and otherwise. Tim, good evening, sir. How we doing?
Good evening. I was doing good. It's getting into that time here in between mini camp and training camp. So, it'll be here before you know it, but it's also the slow part of the off season. And it was nice to see them out there in the practice field last week for mini camp, but not a whole lot came out of it. And here we are. We got to get ready. We got to gear up. It's off season time, headed into training camp, and kind of that slow period that I don't think anyone really likes, but it'll be here before you know it.
No, we all got to stick together in this time. It's very difficult, right? This lack of football, lack of most sports in general, the NBA finals behind us, NHL finals behind us, and we got a little World Cup action going on. So that's kind of cool. I've been really enjoying seeing some of the Europeans exploring America. That has been some fun content for me on Twitter, and just kind of getting a reminder of how great some of our stadiums are here. So there's a little bit of extra sports hype than normal this time of year. But yeah, this is a tough drought time of year for sports, and definitely a little stretch where we are without football, and we are all now just counting down the time. College football starts to bubble up. We got training camp that'll start coming up on the horizon. You mentioned mini camp, and I'm, for one, a little grateful that it was uneventful. No major injuries, no major headlines about anybody else getting in trouble. So, I'll take the uneventful mini camp and, just start counting down our days to real football.
Yeah, let's hope it's an uneventful rest of the offseason. We had one thing pop up that hopefully nothing else remotely like that happens the rest of the offseason. Maybe we get a contract extension or two between now and training camp. Who knows? Seems like they're talking with Tucker Kraft, and I think something's going to happen there. Yeah, I think something will happen there, whether it's, by the start of camp or during camp. I think something will get done before the start of the season. But yeah, let's have a quiet, whatever it's going to be, 6 weeks or 5 weeks between now and the start of a training camp on the July 29th, and get through it. No more issues, and get everybody healthy and ready to go on that first day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And until then, we get to debate. We get to speculate. We get to do all of the things that fans do, pick apart all the box scores, and of course, go back and forth with our rival fans on some on the Twitterverse, others, maybe you got some little bar banter going on wherever you may be, but we've got the Twitter famous, at least, NFL Outdated, joining us this evening. And certainly if you're a Packers fan on Twitter, you have probably seen this man in the comments section at some point. Just love trolling the Packers fans. So welcome, sir, Andy. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. I always enjoy talking football with you, Miles, having you on the podcast as well. You can find me on NFL Outdated on Twitter X, on YouTube, on Instagram, and Friesen4 Pod on TikTok. No dances yet, but if the Bears go to the Super Bowl this year, there may be a shuffle. There may be a new shuffle. I'm just saying.
It's a pretty strong if right there.
Hey, I'll take it.
Hey, that's what it's all about. Everybody's dreams are alive this time of year. Everybody's 0-0. Everybody's goal is the Super Bowl. So we're all headed that way. And I mean, that's where these debates come from. So I appreciate you joining us, man. It's definitely entertaining on Twitter. You've gotten me dragged into a few with some less than pleasant Bears fans. That's okay. I can
and Packer fans, right? You've kind of made some alliances with some unsavory Packer fans, and that's
we are not the same, sir.
That's true. That is true. All kidding aside, I do always enjoy your takes. I always learn a ton from you from this podcast, or even when you're on about players, about all the stuff, and that's really what obviously I love trolling and everything, but I also love kind of learning about other teams, and that's something going into matchups that you can know. Okay, well, these are the strengths and these are the weaknesses. So it's all good. It's all love. Definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's a little bit of that we can have tonight, right? Where, there's definitely some defending I would like to do of the Packers. But I'd also like to give you your opportunity to maybe tell us why the Bears are better than just two simple little wins last season that you guys have really held on to with a death grip. That's okay. But yeah, so we've got our updates for minicamp. Has anything exciting come out of Bears minicamp? Are you guys all jazzed up for the shorts highlights you've gotten from Caleb Williams?
Oh, of course. A lot of things that have come out of camp are, obviously Luther Burden. Everyone's excited about him. But I think the biggest thing that, everyone is excited about is a year 2 of Ben Johnson and how just crisp this offense is looking already. And obviously, yeah, it's in shorts and everything like that, but it makes a difference when you're able to try to just, get the concepts down and have players where they need to be. And where at this time last year, obviously all the Packer fans were in on me and the rest of us Bears fans with every single interception or incompletion that Caleb threw in training camp. And so it really is night and day. Caleb has more command, just with the offense and leadership. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited all around.
So are you worried at all with some of the commentary from Ben Johnson about Caleb Williams and maybe the importance of, EPA and the things that go into that, like accuracy? Any of those issues are concerning, or all's good in paradise over there?
Absolutely no concern whatsoever. And this is exactly what I want my head coach to say. I want my head coach to want his quarterback to be great, and I want him to push him in the media, in person. And also the cool thing, I know you Packer fans don't like Ben Johnson, but what I love about Ben Johnson is that he not only expects accountability from players, but also from himself. And that's what we've been missing as Bears fans for a while. We've had our last coach who tried to have a makeover, grow a beard, and hang out at basketball games with Matt LaFleur, and he wanted everyone to be happy and everything like that. But when you have a coach who knows what he's doing, able to put his players in the best place to be successful, that's what you want. And that's what we're kind of also looking for. Obviously, the talk probably will be and I've heard a lot that we're going to miss DJ Moore. Well, the thing about DJ Moore, I love DJ Moore, and I'm actually, if it's a Bills Super Bowl, I'm down for that. I'm all about DJ Moore doing well, but in the offense, he was just too expensive for being just a part, just a piece. And so in camp, it looks like, Xavier Thomas, the rookie, is really kind of, showing a lot with his hands and, with his speed. Obviously Colston Loveland showing up every day. And we have a third tight end, Sam Roush, that's going to be solid too. So we've got a lot of positive things going on. Obviously, the only thing I would be concerned about would be Rome Odunze's foot. And, there's, obviously there was some talk about how it's a new normal with his foot that was broken. So that's probably the only concerning thing that I'm seeing or that I would worry about. But, he doesn't necessarily have to be the number one. If you got Luther Bird and some of these other things that Ben Johnson can really dial up, they can really spread it out.
Hey,
So.
Careful now. You're starting to sound like a Packers fan.
I know. You
don't need a receiver one.
I was thinking that. Yeah.
Tim, what do you think, man? What's going on with the Bears here? Are you believing they're a threat?
Sure. I mean, I think it's a tough division. I think all the teams are a threat, at least in theory. I think it's going to be tough to get through them all. So I don't think there's any kind of like New York Jets, Miami Dolphins, Tennessee Titans in the division that you're just going to roll over. Everybody's going to stomp on. Even the Vikings, who are, have gotten killed most of the offseason, which is cool. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
Like we all see what Brian Flores' defense has been. So maybe it finally falls off. But he's been able to do it there for 3 years in a row. Hasn't had a drop off yet. So they're going to be tough. Kevin O'Connell can dial up an offense. Kyler Murray is a huge improvement over McCarthy. And, he has got his limitations, and I'm not a Kyler Murray believer or anything like that. But it's a significant upgrade from what they had last season at quarterback. And they have some weapons on offense. So, I think Minnesota, I don't think they're a true contender for anything, but I think they're going to be in the mix. Detroit will be in the mix. I got questions about their offensive line and another new offensive coordinator there. So yeah, it's a tough division. And as far as the Bears go, before we get into any of the back and forth trash talk, is their offensive line going to be good enough? They have question marks at left tackle, at center. Garrett Bradbury. We saw him in Minnesota. I hope they do start him and think that he's going to be their guy. And I know they took the kid out of Iowa, so maybe the Iowa kid who's 37 years old already, I believe. But there's questions on the offensive line. They're not going to be able to live off the turnovers on defense like they did last year. That's not sustainable. It's going to regress. So are they going to be better rushing the passer? If they're not, and they're not getting the turnovers like last year, it's not going to be pretty. And then the quarterback who played bad for 3 quarters and then pulled a couple plays out of his ass in the 4th quarter. Again, it's not sustainable. You got to be more consistent. You got to be more accurate. You got to be able to do it for 4 quarters. So those are my concerns. And I'm not trying to start anything, but I think legitimately the offensive line and just some areas of regression with the Bears would be concerning. And yeah, I recognize they have some good players, and I think that offense, you talked about the weapons. I think they're going to run it through Colston Loveland. I think Loveland is going to be the guy, and Burden can fit in there, and he's going to be a slot. They want him to be a Monroe St. Brown in that offense, but I think it's going to be around Loveland. And as Packer fans, we saw him toast us last season, so we got to have answers for that, and we didn't last year in the playoff game. So there's weapons there, and they're going to run the ball. They have 2 good backs, and Ben Johnson stays committed to the running game too. So I recognize all that, but I think there's concerns up front for that team, and we're not going to get answers on that, kind of like the Packers offensive line, until the pads go on. But I mean, do they have the guys at left tackle and center?
What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, so all great questions, all things I've heard on X and all those talking points. The one thing that's coming out of camp, and a player that a lot of us Bear fans have written off and still may and not be all that good, Braxton Jones. It looks like he may be the one to fill in at left tackle. and he is looking as good as he has since his rookie year. So there's promise there for him to fill in. Obviously, if Ozzie Trapillo is gone for the season, or which he may be out for a little bit. So Braxton Jones, if he can kind of step up, I think that'll be huge. I'm not really worried about Garrett Bradbury. I mean, he just played in the Super Bowl. Is he as good as our center from last year? Absolutely not. Does he need to be? I don't think so. When you have Joe Thuney right there, Garrett Bradbury, he will obviously feed off of some of these other all-pro players, and Darnell Wright coming into his own. Obviously, it's not necessarily it's a question mark, that last year we didn't have, so I'm not necessarily as worried about it, obviously, as Packer fans, but I'm looking at Braxton Jones to take a step. Now, defense, I totally understand, when you look at the paper and you see all these players that the Bears lost that had turnovers. When you look at it, okay, how is that going to be sustainable for going, into 2026? Well, the cool thing about our defense is we had Dennis Allen basically cobbled together linebackers, defensive back. Obviously Packer fans talk about injuries, and you had one really huge injury, but the Bears had a lot of injuries as well. We were missing linebackers to that Steelers game. I don't think I could have played linebacker, and seriously, just who we had, everyone was pretty much missing in that game. We added Devin Bush, and I know, people have questions about him, but he's faster, quicker than we had before. We have obviously you've seen on Twitter, motivated Dayo Odengbo. We'll see what he does. I'm a little, we'll see about him doing the pass rush, but someone I'm really excited about in camp. I think Ben Johnson is excited about, and Dennis Allen is excited about as well. Is a Packer nemesis, a new Packer nemesis, who did happen to get to the quarterback a couple times. Austin Booker. I feel like Packer fans, everyone's kind of already afraid of him. And he's actually looking better in camp. He's in shape, and he's a young kid. He's a young player. I think he can help the pass rush. Grady Jarrett has talked to the Chicago media and says that he owes Chicago a better season. So we'll see about that. But when you look at the defensive backfield, Kobe Bryant, major step up. Dylan Thieneman, he's a rookie. But the cool thing about those two is they both can play both positions. And what Dennis Allen is going to be able to do with that defense is disguise a lot more that they were not able to do in 2025. So you have basically two Swiss Army knives, and you kind of you're able to do a little bit more. So the biggest concern on defense to end here would be Kyler Gordon and his health, right? So, but if you're able to, mix in some of those other defensive backs, I think we can kind of, Dennis Allen. I trust Dennis Allen as much as I trust Ben Johnson at this point. So,
okay, fair responses. For me, it's a matter of depth, right? And
for sure,
looking at the Bears, you got some pieces on defense, but how many injuries away are you from it completely falling apart? And when you are leading the league, or up there in the league in takeaways. I don't know if you guys led the league or not, but you're up there in the league with takeaways. Usually, it doesn't carry over to the next season. Teams that do that next season, it doesn't carry over and stay consistent. The Cowboys had a pretty good season a few years ago where they were taking the ball away a lot, and then the next year that completely fell off. The Packers a couple seasons ago, McKinney had all sorts of interceptions, and then last year didn't. So leaning on the takeaways, I'm kind of with Tim on that, where that's one of those things where I just don't feel like you can rely on that extending into this season. And if you're not taking the ball away at that kind of clip, can you be as good as you were last season? And can you hang with the Packers, right? Because, I mean, that's where I think this conversation gets a lot of fun. What teams are going in which directions, and that's kind of the way I look at this. Certainly, there's some concerns that have been brought up, but let's just start it off from where you dragged me into the mud a couple days ago. The question that you guys love to bring up in Bears land is, can Love get it done in the playoffs? And yes, okay, so let's lay some facts out there. He's 1-4 in the playoffs. Right, is it 1-3? Excuse me, 4 playoff games, 1-3. But 2 of those games he played very well. So I have an issue with blaming the quarterback on losses that the quarterback threw for over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. I think to say that a quarterback can't get it done when he did that is less than accurate. Meanwhile, you guys are very, very excited about what Caleb Williams did, which was statistically much less impressive, but he got on the cover of Madden because he threw it real cool one time. So, give me your best argument here, Andy, for why you think Love can't get it done in the playoffs so we can have our rebuttal here.
Matt LaFleur.
Oh, well.
That, okay. I've gone back and forth, and on me, Twitter, I've said, Love is mid. He's got a ton of talent, right? And hearing from a lot of Packer fans, it's been kind of interesting because I think when Love had his first game versus the Bears, I actually had a man crush on LaFleur. Like what he did that first, drive.
Yeah, he came out. That was pretty
impressive. Really did. But there's something about, like, I don't know if he got comfortable or if he was trying to figure out, how to use Love, the best. But hearing from Packer fans talk about, how even with, Matthew Golden, he's a talented player, is he not?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Why didn't they figure out ways to get him the ball last year?
Yeah, no, I think all of Packers land is on that same page.
So that's what I come back to, and I hear it's like, well, we have this redshirt year. I don't care if you're a good coach, you get your players the ball. And Ben Johnson, he put Jade Walker, undrafted free agent, in a pressure moment, and he performed, right? So you do that, and I think for whatever reason, maybe LaFleur doesn't trust Love. In some of those moments, I feel like Love is fantastic when he's ahead and kind of like it's the snowball rolling down the hill, and he's like, yep. He's going to hit these passes, and amazing passes, but then some just egregious misses. And I watch every game living in here in Wisconsin, and I'm like, what is he doing? And so, like, I get it. Quarterbacks have misses, but there's some terrible misses versus, obviously the Panthers versus the Bears. That last kind of like, fumble and kind of running around, scrambling around. He just looked lost, and I don't know what it is. Even go back to the what was that Atlanta game where he went under the wrong. Did he go under the wrong player or something like that? Or no,
talking about the pick six.
That was his third game as a starter.
Okay. Hey, Packer fans, like to get on me about Caleb's rookie year, so I get it. But so like here's the thing, that was also his 4th season. All right, so we're kind of going back and forth. I would think for a quarterback who's gotten paid this much, like he should have things figured out with his coach this long in the system. He should have things figured out, like what is going on. Like there should be no question, like this is Love's team, and for whatever reason, like he just doesn't seem to kind of be vocal in the moment. To me, in the moment, it seems like he's afraid of it.
So I don't put that on Love. I think that you were correct in putting that more on LaFleur. And I personally have been quite critical of the offensive coordinator, Adam Stenavich, as well. And a lot of the pushback I'll get from other Packers fans as well. He's not the LaFleur's the one calling the plays. Like, all right, well then what's the job of the offensive coordinator? What does he do? and then, well, we don't know. Oh, okay. Well, I don't like that. But I think those are fair. Some of that is fair criticism. I don't know that the criticism on Love is as fair, because there have been some good breakdowns of, all right, here's what was going on. Here's what he was trying to do. And honestly, I think, again, the reason I put it back on LaFleur is you can see, going back to the days of Rodgers with LaFleur, how he would almost arm wrestle with LaFleur on play calling. Right. So something comes in, Rodgers scraps it, and he's got the experience and the savvy to bring in what's going to work. And
not all the time,
but that was
Rodgers under LaFleur was at his best when he ran LaFleur's offense. That's
we
why
agreed
he
on
got
that.
2 MVPs.
We did agree on that.
When he tried to do all the other stuff and force it to Devontae Adams and do his, isolation plays and run around and extend plays, that's when the offense sputtered and wasn't consistent. When he ran what LaFleur wanted him to run, which was under center, play action, get the ball out on time, like spread it around. That's when he won his 2 MVPs and was at his best.
Well, I have a question about Love then, and I heard this kind of locally as well, about, obviously his footwork and how he's working on, Love is working on his footwork, and that's improved. I mean, what year is he going into again?
Everybody, Tom Brady worked on his footwork in his 40s. Every quarterback should be working on things. Like, that's a good sign.
I saw he was I'm not working today that Herbert is doing the same thing down there.
Okay.
In LA.
All right. That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, Brady, his whole career worked on his fundamentals. Every quarterback should work. Peyton Manning worked on everything every year. Like, if Love came out and was like, yeah, I'm good, I'm not working on anything, that would be a problem. I'm glad he's working on stuff.
True.
Like, cool.
Do you like kind of the fadeaway throws by Love
when they're complete? Yeah. Now listen, I've got a little bit of bias down here in Dallas. I got a little bit of like Dirk Nowitzki fadeaways. Those sit in my heart in a special place. I like Love's savviness. He to me, I've seen him get more and more comfortable in the moment every single season. I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's perfect, but I guess my defensive nature comes out when people want to say that he's the problem. It's like, I just feel like you're not watching football if you believe that, and you can't expect everybody, especially other fan bases, to get into the nitty gritty of, well, what's the coach's role and what's going on and what was the actual play call and what was he trying to do there? The one pick six you're talking about where he was, in the end zone and he's, fumbling around and he throws it right to the guy and runs it in. When you got the explanation behind that, you could totally understand what was going on. But those are the things where I look at that and I go, look, the good with Love, give it to me. Let me have it. I want to keep that. I don't want to end up with perfect being the enemy of good enough, right? And because there is no perfect in the NFL. Nobody's perfect. I guess Pat Mahomes is the closest thing, $500 million man that you get to it. But even he this last season, didn't have a great season. So nobody's perfect. And that's where I think that you can get really wrapped around some of the smaller things that Love does and criticism and really miss the greater package of who and what he is, and we Packers fans, we are spoiled. We have had some great quarterback play, and I personally want to keep that going. So I'm a big fan of Love just from what I've seen. He passes the eye test for me. My criticism definitely goes back to the coaching, and it has been pretty consistently that, and one of the things that this last season with LaFleur, he's very predictable on certain run plays. He's going to run it. Is he going to run an inside run on like a fourth or third and short or whatever it was? I can't remember the exact prediction, but it was like everybody in the stadium was knowing what was going on.
Yep.
And at that point, you're just going, oh my God, man, like, what do we, LaFleur, if we all know what's going on, how do you not? So I totally get the LaFleur criticism, but I definitely reject that Love can't get it done in the playoffs that, the Bears fans love to stick to. Because he has gotten it done. And that, one guy was going back and forth was saying, oh, it's fact, he's never gotten it done. Well, no, he's literally won a playoff game. So it's like, you can't say he's never gotten it done in the playoffs. And it was an impressive win against the Cowboys in Jerry World. And that was a damn good Cowboys team. And then, he was giving the 49ers all they could handle the next game, and he had an ill-timed interception there at the end, which is unfortunate. But again, you can't pretend like that doesn't happen to everybody. I mean, there's a lot of those plays for quarterbacks, and when pressure's on, that kind of stuff is going to happen. But I just reject the idea that he can't get it done in the playoffs. And again, against the Bears, right? Like, to tell me that the guy threw for 300 plus, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and you're telling me he can't get it done. But in that same game, we're going to ignore that a kicker left 7 points on the field of a 4-point game. But the quarterback's the one who couldn't get it done. Like, see, that's where I guess I'm like, no, I don't think you watched football if that's how you feel. And go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, and the defense couldn't get a stop in the fourth quarter, and the offensive line couldn't pass protect their quarterback. He was getting killed. You know, like, there's a lot that plays into it. It's not just one thing. And like, I agree with you, Miles. It's more of a LaFleur problem. It's more of an overall Packers team problem than it is Jordan Love. It's not like, yeah, you can point to different throws in games where he should have made them, and you're like, man, he's got to do. But like, he's also the quarterback who was first year as a starter. They're basically rebuilding, and he drags them into the playoffs. And you beat Patrick Mahomes. You can't win a big game. You beat Patrick Mahomes Sunday Night Football in, what was that, November or December, to start them on a run to get to the playoffs. And they go on the road to Dallas and light them up. Their offense was unstoppable in that game, put up whatever it was, 40-some points to win. Like, for a year that they're supposed to be rebuilding, where the guys around them are rookies or second-year receivers, everybody's young. That's not where they should have been. Like, it was an overachieving year, and a lot of that was because of how good he got throughout the course of the year. And then, losing to the Eagles in a playoff game, like, the Eagles were the better team. Like, they weren't going to win that game. He could have played the game of his life. They still probably weren't going to win that game. The Eagles were just better, and he couldn't play the game of his life because they lost 3 offensive linemen in the game. Right. And like,
the Eagles pass rush was nasty.
And the Eagles pass rush that we saw win a Super Bowl, and Patrick Mahomes, they kept knocking him on the ground in the Super Bowl. Like, you got to look at the big picture and see everything than just look at like, well, that quarterback lost. So, like, quarterback wins isn't a thing, first of all. But like, every quarterback's going to have playoff losses. Do they need to win in the playoffs? Like, yeah, but that goes to our argument and our talk about Matt LaFleur that we've been having for months now, is that, like, it's time. Like, there's no more excuses. If you have another 9-win season and you're losing a wild card round, like, there needs to be major changes, but not at quarterback. He can get it done. It's not a Jordan Love problem. It's the surrounding environment and the pieces around him. Can that get better? Sure. Or will that hold Jordan Love back? Yeah, it's possible that's something that holds him back and that he never gets to the level that he's capable of. But I don't put any of their struggles on him. Like, he's way down the list of issues with this team.
I agree with that. And so I agree with Jay Grizz here. Got another Bears fan here joining you, Andy. The NFC North feels much better when the Bears are relevant. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah, I do agree with that. I don't want the Bears to be a pushover every year. I don't like that.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you
do. No, just so used to it.
Pushover 2 games
That's fair.
every year.
That's fair. Although a lot of Packer fans, when you look at the last few games, even, full strength in 2024, they've all been close recently. All right. Even when the Bears had a broken coaching staff. All right. So there haven't been blowouts. It's not this 41-0 that you had with Aaron Rodgers. All right. So
it's coming.
Just a reminder.
It's that era is coming. We're coming back with that. But and then we got Packers fans 655 here. Bears regress this year. They were a fluke. I have a hard time not believing this. And I won't say that your 11-win season was a fluke. I won't go that far, but I do think that all that has happened now, it's hard to believe that you won't regress this next season. Well, so that's kind of where I'm at on that.
I'll stick. I'm not going to say I stick up, but I don't see them falling off and being a 5-win team like we're used to seeing the Bears. Like, I don't think they're going to fall that far, but I think there's things that are setting up, things we've talked about that are setting them up for some regression. But, and Andy can make this argument, like, maybe there's other areas of the team that pick it up and improve to stop that, fall off from the season they had last year, which is possible as well. But yeah, I don't think it was necessarily all a fluke, and I don't think they're going to go back to being doormats again, at least not
No.
yet.
No, I don't think so. Not yet. Maybe that's a few years away. But no, Andy, why don't you give us what's the best case scenario for the Bears in 2026?
13-4.
You think they got 13 wins coming?
You said best case. All right.
Okay. All right.
I actually picked them to go 12-5. All right.
Right. Yep. I remember that.
Yep. So, here's the thing, and I get it. I think our tough games are going to be in the division. It's going to be tough versus, going out to Seattle. It's always tough to play in Seattle. But when you look at Ben Johnson and what he's been able to instill culture wise, you hear even former coaches go back and talk about being in the Hallis Hall, and it's been a mess for a long time, but they go back to Hallis Hall and the language, the verbiage, everything everyone is speaking Ben Johnson's language. Everyone's kind of on the same page. And when you have that, when you have an organization that's single-minded, it's going to be hard to fall back completely. Now, are we going to have tougher games? Absolutely. But I need to remind everybody that says we have this tough schedule, so we're going to regress. This time last year, the Bears had the second toughest schedule on paper. All right. So now we have the first. So it's it can obviously change, injuries, things like that. But you have a coach that's knows what he's doing, that instills confidence. You have a quarterback that instills confidence. And right now he's box office. I get the kind of, he's got to do this or that for, more quarters. When you look at his progression throughout the season, I get everyone's kind of pointing at the 58% and all of that, but what he was able to do in kind of growing into this offense. He was obviously very skittish, with some of the things that he did, to start in training camp, but he grew throughout the season, taking less sacks, being more decisive with his throws, kind of knowing the offense. You look at that Rams game, and I know Packer fans want to point out at the last interception, but he was getting more precise with his passes, and there were a lot of drops, which I try not to bring up, online. There were a lot of drops. It was a cold game. Some of our receivers need to do better at that. But you look at, his progression in the first year in a system, and he's able to start getting more comfortable, knowing the plays, knowing the pre-snap reads, all of these things that, and obviously it sounds like kind of Jordan Love's getting better at as well. But all of these things kind of are compounding and able to, give Caleb confidence. And that's what you need. If you have a quarterback, a leader, two leaders, that the team in crunch time to say, okay, they've been there, they've done that, we trust, we're going to follow. That's why Mahomes, I think, is so good in those crunch moments. He's done it. He's been there. He's done it. Right. Is he the most precise passer? Absolutely not. But he, in those moments, something's going to happen. And Caleb, when he's on the run, I mean, you talk about Tom Brady and his assessment of that, pass to DJ Moore, how difficult that throw was. And just, obviously in a windy, environment. And so Caleb's able to make those throws. His arm is strong. He is getting more accurate. He's just able to kind of manipulate the defense a little bit more. And yes, you kind of add him being able to make the layups better. It's really not hard to see how the Bears can improve. Now, are they going to win 11, 12, 13 games? Maybe not. I think their bottom is 10 games. There's no way that this Chicago Bears team wins less than 10 games in 2026.
Okay. Bottom is 10. I would say I would put you at 9 wins. And then it's in part due to the schedule, but it's in part due to your offensive line. I think, and to be fair, Caleb can certainly continue to get better. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that he is what he is. He's, after 2 seasons, because I think that Jordan Love is still getting better, and I know going into his 6th season, his 4th as a starter. I just quarterbacks, that's a game that, if you've watched quarterbacks over the years, you watched Peyton Manning get better for years and years and years. You watched Tom Brady get better for years and years and years. There's guys that just continue to get better as their career goes on. There's other positions where, at some point a guy is a guy and he's not going to be any different than what he is. But I think that the level of difficulty is going to increase for Caleb Williams. And I think you got a glimpse of that in the playoffs. So, how do you contend with Caleb Williams in the regular season versus Caleb Williams in the playoffs? Because his playoffs did not look good. And I get it. There's drops. I'll be sympathetic to drops because Jordan Love dealt with drops a couple seasons ago as well. I get that. Yeah. But man, it was pretty ugly.
Well, so here, obviously, I think I found something I wanted to bring up from Clay Harbor, some stats here. And obviously, there's this narrative that, he's bad for 3 quarters. He's this, he's that. Okay, so weeks 1 through 9. Here, Caleb Williams stats: 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So his TD interception ratio ranked 19th, QBR ranking 18th. All right, that's weeks 1 through 9. All right, where he's still kind of getting to know the system. In week 1, he had to play, tough defense in Minnesota. All right, weeks 9 through 18, 18 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That ratio, TD to interception ratio, ranks 2nd. His QBR ranking was 9th. All right. So you see the progression in that offense and just feeling comfortable in that offense and being a leader. Now, did he make some tough interceptions? Absolutely.
5
Absolutely.
In 2 games.
But what I love, and this is, looking back at that first Packer game, when he threw that interception, end of the game, that was a close game. All right.
For sure.
When he threw that interception, what I loved about him and what I love about Caleb is that he kind of takes that moment, and for the next couple times in the moment, he's able to say, okay, well, I need to do this better. I need to do this better. And his coach is pushing him to do that. So I would not expect anything less than both of them pushing each other to be great. And when you have evidence in year 1 of Ben Johnson, 2 completely different seasons from the first half of the season to the second, it shows that he's able to adapt, and it shows that he's not afraid of the moment. He's going to go for it in the moment. And that's what he did versus the Rams. He's not going to sit back. And that's the one question I would have about Jordan Love, right? And Matt LaFleur. I feel like you guys had us on the ropes. That Matthew Golden touchdown, I thought that was the dagger. I really thought it was. For whatever reason, eased up on the gas, or Caleb maybe put it in overdrive and said, we're going to do this. And just enough. And I know you go, kickers this, kickers that, but then you also want to have a quarterback that's going to take command and say, we're not losing this. And Caleb has done that. He's proven that. And that's, obviously we're not going to go 17-0. All right. But when you have a quarterback that is that talented, that can make every throw, I want that quarterback, obviously, and this would be a great question and to ask maybe non-Bear fans, non-Packer fans, but right now the script has been flipped from last year to this year, right? I think last year, and maybe it's the 4-letter network, it's always pushing the Packer agenda and saying, Love is going to be MVP, but last year, this time it was Love this, Love that, right? Questions Williams, questions this, and now it's, kind of flipped. I'm not hearing a lot about Jordan Love nationally. I mean, August is ESPN's time to kind of push the Packer dark horse.
Well, it's coming.
It's
coming. Don't worry about that.
But, I think Williams has really had that opportunity to, show what he can do on the national stage.
Well, so, we're kind of getting down to it, Williams versus Love. And I'll tell you, the thing that especially in that playoff game against the Bears that became apparent is that Williams does have that mentality of, I'm not going away. So he's almost got this sort of, short memory, like quarterbacks, they say they need, and kind of a thick skull of, that's not going to bother me. And so that was the issue for me in that game, is you could see that he kept coming back. He just wouldn't go away. And that's where I insist that maybe Packers fans, we had a little bit of, a little bit of distraction, and we didn't put enough blame on Hafley for the way the defense fell apart. There was 3 plays in a row where y'all ran the exact same play to Colston Loveland, and he caught it every stinking time. And I was pulling my hair out. I was so mad. But he wouldn't go away. I would almost compare Caleb Williams more to and not from a career perspective. So before these words come out of my mouth, would be very,
I know
take
where
this
you're
with a
going
grain
with
of salt. I'd compare him more to Brett Favre, because he's more of this risk taker, gunslinger. He's gonna, make some pretty spectacular throws. He's also gonna make some pretty spectacular mistakes. And I think that's the inconsistency of Caleb for me is where the vulnerability is, where I think Jordan Love is far more consistent. I think Jordan Love's got a lot more Aaron Rodgers in him, and that he's a little bit more of he's got a lower tolerance for risk, and he's going to be more consistent. He's going to be more prepared and kind of even keeled to just, execute the offense, get the job done. And that's where I look back at LaFleur and go, what were you doing? Why do you have this Ferrari and you drove it like a Honda? Like, what are you doing? And Golden is part of that. Savion Williams is part of that for me. You got a 6'5", 225 freak athlete, and he's just running bubble screens out of the backfield all for his whole rookie season. We can't figure out a better way to use that freak of an athlete. So there's a lot of pieces that I felt like were misused in this offense. And then there was the level of predictability that came from the run game. Those things, to me, get fixed in an offseason, because you have nothing to do but watch your film and go, geez, why did we do that? Whereas you can't really fix the nature of how Williams operates.
And you can't necessarily prepare for it either. I mean, there's certain things you can prepare for, right? But like his off-script stuff is just like, second to maybe Mahomes or second to none. I mean, he's able to do some of those things, and obviously he's not in that category yet. But I was actually going to say something good about Love that I've seen this offseason. And, obviously don't hold your breath here, because I try not to say too much good about Love. But there was a press conference, he was talking about Savion Williams. And I feel like when they talk about players, they're trying to light a fire under their butt, right? And he was obviously, talking about how, he needs to step up, all right? But when you look at, obviously you don't want to put a lot on off-season stuff, but there was that one video of the routes that were going around about Savion running his route. It just looks so lazy, not crisp, and obviously their Packer fans were trying comments on that one. Yeah, Packer fans were trying to say, well, he was just doing this. I don't care. Like, if you're that good of a receiver, if you're going to be expected, you run crisp routes. I don't care if it's, or you have a quarterback that's going to make sure you do, or a coach, you run your routes. And I, obviously I don't know the full context of that, but I saw that and I said, that was like middle school level
Yeah.
It was.
I just kind of chalk that up to OTAs. You just never know where they were at in the practice. And yeah, for sure. I mean, I certainly wasn't grabbing that clip and going, look how good this guy is. But you also have to leave room for, they might have been warming up. It might have just been more of a casual, drill. That's why I hate short season. I hate it across the board. Everybody's going to throw their highlights up of making a play in shorts. And it's just like, for God's sakes, guys, everything has to be taken with a grain of salt here. There's no pads on. There's no situational pressure. So all of that to say, I do feel like last season, these weapons were misused. And I include Matthew Golden into that as well. And there was some chatter about, well, Matthew Golden wasn't necessarily picking up the offense as well as they wanted him to. He was making some mistakes. And these are things that are harder to see, I think, for fans that are just casually watching, right? You don't necessarily know what the route was supposed to be or what the assignment was supposed to be. You just see what happens. So sometimes something happens, it looks good, and it was a total mistake. And vice versa. Sometimes it looks like a total mistake. It's like, well, the guy was doing what he's supposed to do. This other thing happened. And so you have to leave room for that. And that's where I say, like, in this offseason specifically, and Tim, you said it, the pressure's on LaFleur. I do not believe that they can have a season like they had last season and LaFleur survives and keeps his job. And I don't believe that the fan base has much of a leash for him either. I mean, there was half the fan base wanted him gone, maybe more than half, after losing to the Bears in that playoff game. I certainly was in my feels on that. And afterwards, I was sort of like, all right, I get it. Continuity. A lot of players came to bat for him, all that kind of thing. Keeping him, I think, ultimately was the right decision. But I also think that some changes that have happened will have a massive impact on how LaFleur conducts himself. So the biggest one for me is Bisaccia's gone, right? Rich Bisaccia being gone, and he was an assistant head coach as well as a special teams coach. And we certainly could go into how much the special teams was a problem. We don't need to do that. But and back to this guy that I was in the comments with, Bukowski had a really good point about Bisaccia that I think was probably spot on. And that Bisaccia was probably the guy that was like your teacher in high school that let you cuss in class and didn't grade your homework. So you loved the guy, but you didn't learn anything, right? And all the players loved him. But I think that ended up being who he was, is he didn't necessarily keep guys accountable. And it also felt like his relationship with LaFleur enabled LaFleur to sort of keep his head stuck in the quarterback room and not necessarily be the head coach and hold everybody accountable outside of the offense included. So I do think that there's some dynamic here that's going to force LaFleur back into a real head coach role. Whether that's good or not, we're going to find out. I also think that there's an element of accountability with the defensive coordinator, and he and Hafley were notably, they seemed like they were good friends. They got along really well. I don't know how well he felt like he could hold Hafley accountable to making the mistakes that he made. And certainly the fan base, we were so relatively satisfied with Hafley because of what we had before Hafley. Joe Barry lining up Preston Smith and at CB1 across from Justin Jefferson, thinking that that's a good idea. So anything better than that was like, woohoo, we're good at defense again. And I think that really distracted us from holding the defensive coordinator more accountable to some of the mistakes he made. Because again, you bleed away a lead like he did against the Bears. It's just like, that's not okay. It's just not. And you can certainly say, well, LaFleur should have done this. The offense should have done that, but the defense should have found a way to not give up the whole field to Colston Loveland in 3 identical plays in a row. Like, that is such a big problem for me that I can't even get over it. And now I'm thinking, okay, well, the relationship with Gannon and LaFleur is going to be totally different. And whether or not he can hold him accountable, we're going to find out. But I get hope in that, okay, maybe LaFleur can do some self-scouting here. Here's what went wrong. Here's how we need to approach these things with new relationships in place, and go from there. The other thing is you've got a new assistant head coach. Didn't they make Covington an assistant head coach, Tim? The D-line coach? Didn't they give him like a promotion to keep him?
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I think there's a defensive assistant head coach and there's an offensive assistant head coach too.
Right. So totally different assistant head coaches. And I do think that there's some accountability, responsibility built into those roles. Big fan of Covington. I thought he did a good job with the defensive line, especially from, again, the previous one. So maybe there's a little bit of relative satisfaction there. But yeah, so, to bring it back to what's going on between the Packers and the Bears here, to me, and I'm certainly biased, right? Surrounded by green, I feel like the Packers have momentum going forward and the Bears have taken a step backward, just based again on what has happened with their roster and where you guys are. Now you have coaching continuity that is something different from the Packers. We have to figure out what these new coaches are capable of. But we're all assuming we're trading up. So that's kind of where I address those things. Well, what about this and what about that with, last season? I place none of that on Love. None of that is on Love to me. And I think one of the common things you will hear from the Packers fans this offseason is that LaFleur has to give the keys to Love. He has to. You've got a guy here who's ready. He's proven that, I think, for several years in a row now. You've got to turn it over to him and let him drive. And hopefully that's what we get. But I think one of the big keys here, and I want to kind of shift gears to this, is which O-line will perform better in 2026? Because the Bears certainly have questions on their O-line, and I do think that is going to lead to some increased difficulty for Caleb Williams. But the Packers don't have a perfect offensive line, right? Like, there's a lot of shuffling happening there. We get Zach Tom back at right tackle. We're hoping that Jordan Morgan can be the first-round pick you drafted him to be now that you're actually going to let him play left tackle. And then there's all sorts of stuff going on in the interior line. So what do you think about that, Andy? I mean, obviously the bias there, but realistically, how well can this Bears offensive line hold up with, losing an important centerpiece and then kind of piecing things together around them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not going to be, all-star. Like, it's not going to be what it was in 2025. I don't think it needs to be. But obviously you asked the question kind of comparing the two. You look at the Packers, Jordan Morgan. I remember when you drafted him, and I remember doing a video live at the draft saying, what's going on? And I've heard Packer fans, talk about him. Obviously, the shift to left tackle and I don't think we understand how hard it is to move on the offensive line from one position to the next. Obviously these are talented players, but they all have their tendencies and what they're used to. Maybe he's played more at left tackle. I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult. You have a little bit more shifting around with the Packers. Obviously the Bears have Tooney. They have some stability. The center is going to be huge, but we have a center that was in the Super Bowl. Is he as good as the previous one? No. I just think the Bears have more continuity from last year. I think overall the Bears are going to be able to outperform. The offensive line is going to be able to outperform the Packers offensive line. Part of it might also come down to, the skilled players, right? I mean, who knows what happens, Josh Jacobs, who knows, how much they're going to have to rely on Jordan Love's arm. When I look at these two offensive lines, I would say the Bears have more continuity, and so they're going to be a little bit better than the Packers.
Fair enough.
I'll do the Packers perspective if I can. Jordan Morgan, he is a big question mark if he can play left tackle, but that's his natural position. That was what he played growing up. So him being a guard, that was learning a new position on the right side of a line where he was always a left tackle. So he proved that he's not a guard. Like he couldn't cut it there. For whatever reason, they wanted to try him there and they left him there and it didn't work. But he's always been a left tackle. And the time where he was allowed to play left tackle, which was last August for 3 or 4 weeks while Rasheed Walker was out, he was pretty damn good at left tackle and got better each week. to the point where Miles and I were talking going into the season, are they going to do a rotation at left tackle? Because they've done that at other positions. They did it at right guard last year to start the season. And then for whatever reason, they decided, nope, Rasheed Walker, we're going to leave him at left tackle. Jordan Morgan, now you're going to go play right guard and be in a rotation at right guard. It didn't make sense. And Rasheed Walker, up until last year, was a solid starting left tackle. Not an all-pro. He wasn't David Bakhtiari, but he wasn't bad. Like, he was solid. Had a down year last year, and they never moved Jordan Morgan over there to compete with him or take reps from him. Why? I have no idea. Was it part of like, hey, they wanted to, go with the veteran who they trusted more? Was it he's got a contract situation coming up and we want him to go and get paid somewhere else so we get a better comp pick next year? I don't know. Didn't make sense, but I don't think the bar for Jordan Morgan at left tackle to be better than what Rasheed Walker was is very high. I think he can get there and be better than Rasheed Walker, but yeah, it's unproven, and he's one of the most key Packers going into next season because we don't know if he can do it at left tackle, but that's where he wants to be. That's where he's most comfortable, and that's where he had always played until he got to Green Bay. But yeah, and Miles, you and I have been discussing it for a while now. I think offensive line is the biggest issue, definitely on the offense and maybe on the entire team. Like, their offensive line has to be a lot better than it was last year. It was not good enough. Aaron Banks, and it was interesting. There was an article that came out last week talking about Banks this season and all the injuries he went through. Like, he was never really healthy until December, and he played better at that point, but like, he dealt with groin injuries, ankle injuries, a back injury, like all kinds of stuff, more than what we probably knew at the time. So him, it's just a matter of like, can he stay healthy? And I think if he can, he's a solid starting guard. Is he is he Joe Thuney? No, he's not as good as Joe Thuney, but he can be solid for you. Sean Ryan showed promise in his 9 games starting at center. And I think there's still growth there because that was a new position for him to play. He was an upgrade from what Elton Jenkins was giving them at center. And then Belton at right guard, he struggled as a rookie, but he had never played guard before, right? They drafted him. He was a college tackle. He played tackle throughout training camp. When they were asked, is he playing guard? They said, no, we're going to leave him at tackle for now. And then all of a sudden, November comes around and he's out there at guard. It was like, why weren't you doing this all along, cross-training him? Again, a coaching decision issue there. But when he got in there, he showed flashes. But yeah, he got beat a lot, especially in pass protection. He looks good right now. I've seen pictures of him. His body he's in better shape. He's lost weight. Can't judge anything. They don't have pads on. They're not touching the defenders. Who knows? But he at least looks like he's gotten him in better shape. He's getting reps solely at right guard for the most part. I don't think they've really kicked him out to tackle. Maybe they do that when training camp comes, but just getting those increased reps, I think, is going to help him. But he's definitely an unknown. Mm-hmm. He's got the talent. He's got the frame. He's got the ability. He's got to prove it. And then we have Zach Tom. And whenever Zach Tom comes back from injury, set it and forget it. There's no question. Zach Tom's one of the best right tackles in football. So there's a lot of questions on the Packers offensive line. And, not even getting into their lack of depth, which, you're going to have injuries. It's rare when teams get through a season with the same 5 starters up front. It's the biggest key to their offense. It's not the receivers. It's not who the running back is going to be. It's not even Jordan Love. It's how that offensive line is going to perform, because that's what held them back offensively last year. More so than Matt LaFleur and his play calling. And we can argue that, but it was the offensive line, because that ruined his play calling at times. They got to be good this year. And there certainly are questions. I have my concerns. I don't think everybody's going to work out, and we're not going to have issues with it. But I'm at least Jordan Morgan, to me, is the X factor, but I'm excited to see what he can be, because I think they can get better there than what Rasheed Walker had been giving them. And if you can have your 2 tackles be solid, or much, Zach Tom's really good, that at least gives you something. And then I think they can mix and match and make it work inside. But yeah, it's a huge question mark, the offensive line. It has to be improved.
Well, and I'll even say, Andy, you had a comment that, well, it kind of depends on the skill positions. Man, you can have the best skill positions, and if the O-line doesn't hold up, it does not matter. It really doesn't.
That's fair.
So that's one of those things that I agree, Tim. They're the biggest X factor here this season because, I think we can agree as Packers fans, we're pretty happy with your top three, well, call it top four, being Watson, Kraft, Golden, and Reed, right? Like that, those are some fun pieces. And I know that there's other fan bases. Oh, you guys have a terrible receiving, whatever. You don't have a receiver one. There's all sorts of non-football knower opinions, but from watching these guys and, Golden, the other thing is you've got guys going from their rookie year to their year two. There is always going to be a big step up if the guy's any good. So like a Golden, a Savion Williams, a Belton, if the guy's any good, he's going to be better in year two than he was as a rookie. That's just like a thing. Like it's very, I don't want to call it a fact, but like very, very reliable trend. So I factor that in. I expect Golden to be very good. I expect Belton to be much better than he was last year. I expect Savion Williams to be better. But, Tucker Kraft was banging on the door of being the best tight end in football when he got hurt. And he certainly has that expectation for himself. Certainly, Colston Loveland is making a run and trying to get up in that territory as well. I love the skill position players they have, even if something happens with Jacobs and, whatever, we don't need to get into all of that. If you don't have Jacobs this year, I like the guys they've got behind him because you don't need the running back to be a superhero in this offense. You just need him to be able to do his job. And Chris Brooks is a phenomenal pass blocker, so he can help protect and correct some of those mistakes along the offensive line. But ultimately, I love the skill positions. And if the O-line can hold up their end of the deal, I think this offense is going to run really, really well. That's a big if, right? If they can't, it's going to be a frustrating thing to watch, I think. And it's going to give you guys a lot of red meat out there in Bears land to have fun with. But ultimately, I think there's a lot of reason to believe that this offensive line unit does get better this season than what it was last season.
Can we go back to you usually go to the Senior Bowl, right?
Shrine Bowl.
You go to the Shrine Bowl. Okay. So
Yeah.
You didn't go to okay. So a little throwback Monday here. Bears 5th round pick Austin Booker beating Packers 1st round pick Jordan Morgan on back-to-back reps at the Senior Bowl. Lest we never forget that.
Hey, look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Jordan Morgan can hold it down. And Booker's good. He's a good player. He's kind of, I don't think he's a good guy, right? But that's fine. You don't have to be a good guy. You got to be a mean SOB playing defense in the NFL. No, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I have 100% faith that Morgan can be that dude. But he has had some growth for sure. And the rotating along the offensive line has held him back. To Tim's point, last preseason, we were pretty excited about how Jordan Morgan looked at left tackle, and then they yanked him out and he never got back. Booker's going to be tough. You're going to have some things for us to contend with, and I'll see your Booker. I'll raise you a Parsons.
Okay. I'm glad you bring that up. And obviously it's not my show, but I did have some questions. All right. Okay. Now, I respect you because you're honest about everything, and you're not just like, oh, the Bears still suck. You're honest about all this stuff. You talked about the Packers arrow basically pointing up. All right. And I would push back on that. All right. So, obviously I would say even not as just a Bears fan, I would say objectively, the Packers have more question marks going into 2026 than the Bears do. And it begins and ends with the health of Micah Parsons. I think it's just being glossed over from a lot of Packer fans online to say, well, we have an easy schedule when presumably Micah Parsons is going to be out. You thought that yet last year versus Carolina in Cleveland, right? None of these games in the NFL are easy. And so just to kind of say, well, we're going to definitely going to go back to the playoffs. We're going to definitely do this. We're going to definitely. that Micah Parsons injury, and I don't even know if Tucker Kraft's going to be back either. There's a lot of question marks. Is he going to be back? Okay. But even that Micah Parsons thing, that's huge. You have a new defensive scheme, whatever he's talking, it's new. And you have a player as talented Micah Parsons is going to miss. I would worry about then when he comes back about him pushing too much to be, Superman and maybe gets re-injured. So it's going to be an interesting and maybe tenuous kind of like, start. Does he go for the Bears, or does he wait for Dallas, or does he wait even further? And go ahead.
I get your point, and that was a concern of mine. But hearing Micah talk about it, because I actually thought he was going to push to play like week 1 or week 2, which would be insane.
Not happening now, yeah.
But he has that mindset of like, I'm not playing until after 9 months. Like 9 months is a hard deadline, and
he's
he's
the end of
taking
September,
right? And he knows he's got to take his time, and he wants to come back 100%. That to me is a really good thing. And it's going to suck. He's going to miss at least the first 4 games. But I'd rather him come back and be 100% and ready to go than like rush and be like, hey, I'm back week 1. Look how hard I trained and recover. But then he comes back and he has, pulls a groin or he hurts his other leg because he's overcompensating for the injury or whatever it may be. So I think at least from that standpoint, it's good to hear him say, I'm going to take my time with it and I won't be back, in September. I'll be back later on after at least 4 weeks, whether it's the Bears or the Cowboys. It's probably going to be one of those games. I can't see him missing the Dallas game for sure. But yeah, you worry about like, does he come back and does he push it too hard once he's back? Especially like, I don't think it's even so much learning the defense. I just think he's going to want to come back and prove that he's still Micah Parsons and the knee's not going to hurt him. But at least from hearing him talk now, it kind of settles my mind. Like he's going to be smart with this, and he knows he's in it for like the playoffs if they can get there. He knows he's in it for the long term with his career, and he doesn't want to screw anything up. So that kind of makes me worry less. And the schedule part, like I don't take that lightly. Like I get they got the Jets in there, they got the Falcons, whatever. Like they're NFL teams. You can lose. Anybody can lose to anyone. Any week. Like it's completely true. I'm not worried about that. It's more so like why he's out. Can Lucas Van Ness, can Barron Sorrell, can, Dennis Sutton, can those guys pick up the pass rush? Can Jonathan Gannon get creative with the defense? If they're not, obviously they're not going to have anybody near Micah's level, but like, can he get creative to help the pass rush and help the defense when Mike is out? Like those are more the questions than like, oh yeah, we got these first 4 games, no problem. Like, I don't think that at all. I think those first 4 games are on Gannon in a lot of ways. And they're on the guys that have to pick up the slack until Mike is back.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think the way I would build on that as well is I don't think he'll be back for the first Bears game. I've changed my opinion on that. Tim mentioned he's got that hard 9-month rule. His operation was December 29th. So that puts his 9-month rule at September 29th. So he can start practicing at the beginning of October. His brother has been out there on social media pretty adamant that he's going to practice for at least 3 weeks before he comes back, which would put him squarely in that Cowboys game. So I do think he'll make it for the Cowboys game. I think he's obviously motivated to make it back for the Cowboys game. And he's also a freak, man. Let's be clear about this. Yeah, there's some guys that are not the athletic freak that he is, and they're going to have a harder time getting back. I think by the time he comes back, he's going to be ready. He's going to be feeling 110%. And I would point to how last season started, right? He basically didn't have a training camp, and he showed up week 1, hunting down Jared Goff in that game against the Lions, just ready to go. I mean, he gave Goff hell in that game. So I don't worry about once he's back if there's rust. I think once he's back, he's back.
He'll be on a pitch count. I think he'll be on
they'll probably have
they had him on a pitch count last year for like the first month of the season.
Right. But the reps he was in there, man, he was he was a monster. He was a monster. And so that's where I say, like, I think he will have a full effect in the games that he is back for. The other thing is I like the guys behind him. I am a big fan of Sorrell. Big fan of Sorrell. I think LVN also is going to finally be able to have the kind of season you expect him to have. He's he started showing that last year. He got injured. A lot of guys, we've seen that, he's had some pretty good things happening this offseason. Bill Huber called him the MVP of the offseason. So LVN, I think, will be able to come back and have an impact.
I was going to say, I'm an Iowa guy, and he went to Iowa, and he didn't play a lot at Iowa. So there's not a lot of wear and tear on him, but I would say, obviously, Packers are hoping that he takes that step. I would say, in comparison, Booker has shown more than LVN has.
Oh yeah, sure. But
and
past isn't always indicative of future.
I don't know.
No, what were you going to say?
I don't know if he's shown more than LVN. Like I've seen flashes from Booker. I've seen flashes of LVN. LVN was playing well last year. He got hurt, came back. He missed a lot of time, so he's got to stay healthy. But I know Booker. Everybody is so excited about Booker, and he might work out. He might be good, but I don't think it's fair to say that he's necessarily better at this point than Van Ness. He might end up being better than Van Ness, but I can't say that right now.
Well, I mean, he did get to Jordan Love twice, right?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, so in Austin Booker right now is not even slated to start. We'll see what Deo Adangbo, but maybe he's injured too. We'll see. But when you look at both players, obviously, I think from an objective standpoint, LVN has the talent. It for whatever reason, maybe he'll be better in this system. Maybe that'll help. I mean, I don't know, what it is, but
neither do we.
Yeah.
Because neither does Gannon. No, but that was the other thing I was going to lead to is it's been a while since the Packers have had a defensive coordinator that other players want to come play for. Right. And so Hafley, we liked Hafley, he got his head coach promotion. He did something right, but he came out of Boston College. So there wasn't actually a known factor there. He wasn't as known. He was kind of an undiscovered talent for DC and certainly not perfect. Right. We've had our criticism of him, but there's been several players, Hargrave being one of them, Franklin being another, that have said that they wanted to come play for him, and Josh Sweat has made his opinion known down there in Arizona. Whether they actually end up acquiring him or not is certainly remains to be seen. But, Gannon is a guy that there's a lot of good players that love that guy and want to play for him. I was actually kind of making fun of him whenever we first signed him because of the whole goofy videos that he, and it's like, who the heck is this guy? And things didn't go great down there in Arizona. And there's definitely a trend.
He's got a huge Adam's apple too, right?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
man. That thing is coming out there. But he has said, and this was something, and maybe I'm latching on to this too much, but this was something that I was really, really happy to hear. He said that we're going to do what we do well. We're going to take the players we have and we're going to do what they do well. We're not going to force things that they don't do well. And that just, I got my PTSD from Joe Barry with Preston Smith playing against Justin Jefferson. It's like, oh, good. We won't have an outside linebacker lined up one-on-one against one of the best receivers in the game. I love to hear that. But I also think that when that's your philosophical approach, the players are going to naturally fit whatever you're doing much better. So there's going to be less of a learning curve, in my opinion. I don't think he's going to swing in here and these guys are going to have some new totally foreign thing to learn. I think it's going to be more, here's what we do well. Here's what we're going to try to do. Here's some, vulnerabilities we try to take advantage of. And that'll be the plan and not overcomplicate it. Let these guys, instead of thinking all the time, let them read and react. And I think that's when defensive players are reading and reacting fluidly without having to think too much, that's when they play their best football. So I'm optimistic about what Gannon brings in, and that's why I think there will be less of a learning curve. But again, I think that the guys that they've got behind Micah are probably they're certainly, not highly thought of right now, at least outside of Green Bay. Barron Sorrell, I think, is going to be a great player. Whatever I'm biased. I get it, but I think he's going to be a great player. And one of the things, go ahead.
They have him at third. I mean, this is ESPN, but they have him at third string right now. I mean, is he
right?
I don't think that's accurate, but
okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're not counting Micah for the first 4 games, so I think it's going to be Sorrell and Van Ness most likely as the starters.
They have him behind Van Ness, Brenton Cox.
No,
Brenton
Cox.
Brenton
I don't
Cox.
think will start. Brenton
Cox might not even make the team.
Yeah, he's a good situational player. He's had some flashes, but I don't see him beating out Sorrell. I think Sorrell definitely has a little bit of a coming out party. And if Colin Oliver can stay healthy, he's got the same skill set, certainly not to the degree, but the same skill set as Micah. He's very twitchy, very fast, not as big, and he could be a real problem in the same way that Micah is for offensive line. His problem is he's not healthy, and he hasn't stayed healthy at all. So I kind of put an asterisk by him, but if he's out there, he's going to be a problem. And, so there's 3 guys there that I really think could create problems. And then Danny Dennis Sutton, yes, he's a rookie, but there's a lot of potential there. The athleticism, he could be a great player. I don't think I'm going to go out and project, double-digit sacks, but he could definitely pose issues for opposing offensive lines while Micah's out, and he's going to, I think, get the opportunity to do so. So we're not without hope there without Micah, whereas I think last year the way that the defense was built was very heavily dependent on him. And when you pulled him out of there, I think that kind of exposed Halfley a little bit, and there was a little bit of a panic of what do I do? And, so I get it that from the outsider's perspective, you might be expecting the same thing without Micah in there. I don't think that's how this is going to go. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you the Packers are going to be a top 5 defense without him, but I think they're going to be able to hold their own long enough for the offense to win the games for them if they need to. And, to go back to the schedule just real quick, I certainly have never led with that talking point of, the schedule's easy. I don't believe that. And Tim, you said it. I agree with you. When you look at it, those are winnable games. Like, I don't look at those games as like, dang, without Micah, I just don't know how you're going to do it. You can beat Minnesota. You could certainly beat the Jets. You better stinking beat the Jets. And after that, the Falcons, I think, are be tough. And I think the Buccaneers are going to be tough. I think you got some tough games there. And I'm certainly not writing off the Bears, right? Like the Bears, I think, are going to be tough. But I do think that there is a little bit of a chip on our shoulder with the Bears. I think a lot of those players have a bad taste in their mouth, and they're going to bring 100% of what they got for that game. But I do think ultimately the offense will be put in position to be able to win those games. Maybe you have to win a 40-something, 30-something game, and the defense just does just enough to give the offense a chance to win those games. But that's the way I look at those. I don't really look at it like without Micah, we're going to probably go 1-4, 1-5. I don't think that. I don't think that's
I said that.
Oh, you did.
Without Micah, I think a lot of it's going to they're going to have to figure things out, because last year when he went down, they had no answers on defense. And,
and the DB situation was worse than it is now too.
Yes. I don't think it's greatly improved. If you're still trotting out Nixon and Valentine, it is improved, but you're trying out Nixon and Valentine. So that's why I think the new system, what Gannon's going to give, or what he's going to, draw up, whatever his system ends up being. But he was known in Arizona, and they didn't have the talent in there on defense, number one, but they were very good disguising their coverages. And that was something like when the Packers had played them, LaFleur and Love talked about, they were taking a play clock down, trying to figure out what are these guys in, because they're showing us something, then we're snapping the ball and they're rotating their safeties, they're dropping guys. They were really good disguising their coverages. So I think that's something that he can really lean on early in the year and try to confuse quarterbacks, get them to hold the ball longer, because he's not going to have Micah there. But when Micah went down last year, I know Halfley tried some different things, and they had some good. The 2 Bears games, they played good for 3 quarters, but then it would fall apart in the 4th quarter. But he didn't have any kind of answers. And there's no replacing Micah Parsons, but there was no all right, we don't have Micah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to bring everybody. Or
we didn't get that.
You had nothing without him. You had no nothing new to show an offense. There's no change up. There's no adjustment. So Gannon, that's why I'm saying it's on him. Like he needs to, there needs to be an answer. It can't just be like, hey, when Mike is out there, we're going to get to the quarterback. And when he's not, I don't know. We're going to play what we play and let's hope. Like he needs to help his players out and put them in the best position. But I think a lot of it's going to fall on his game planning and coverage rotations and trying to confuse play callers and quarterbacks to, force them into mistakes.
So one player that I'm not hearing you guys talk about, a player that kind of scares me because I think he's one of the better players, Edgerrin Cooper. I mean,
yes.
Like obviously it looked like he regressed a little bit statistically in 2025. But he seems to have a nose for the ball, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't,
I think he's still a rising star.
He is. Yeah. He didn't have the splash plays that he had as a rookie. That was the big thing. He was probably more consistent because he did, and it gets like overlooked because he made so many splash plays as a rookie, but even the coaches were saying like, he wasn't always in the right spots. Like he was giving some stuff up, but you didn't notice it because he made so many splash plays. And I think in 2025, he wasn't making as many splash plays, but he was probably in better spots. So like, yeah, they got like, I still think he can be a star linebacker for them. He's incredibly talented. And I think we're going to see him blitz more. I'm hopeful that the fit with Zaire Franklin is better than his fit with Quay Walker, because I don't think Quay and Cooper, they didn't fit well together. Like he needs somebody that can call the defense, that can be more reliable. And Quay Walker was way too up and down. Yeah. And hopefully Franklin's coming off a down year and a new defense, new system. Hopefully he can get back to the level he was at before 2025. But if he can fit better with Cooper, I think we'll see Cooper look a lot more like he did as a rookie than what he did last year. I don't think he was bad or anything last season. I just think it was the splash plays were missing, the turnovers, the TFLs, the sacks, stuff like that. He didn't have as many of it. But yeah, I still think he's just going to be a star. I still think he's going to be a really, really good linebacker for him. But yeah, hopefully between Gannon and Zaire Franklin next to him, that's what can turn him loose, and we can finally see the star power.
Well, and that's one of the things that has been complimented about Franklin is his leadership. So I think getting a guy like that who's got a lot more experience in the league, and certainly, he likes Gannon. He wanted to play for Gannon. I think that's an upgrade for Cooper over Quay Walker. There's a reason they let Quay Walker walk, and before that, they were really talking about wanting to keep him long term. So I think last season changed that a little bit. And so, yeah, I would expect Edgerrin Cooper maybe to be part of that plan of compensating for life without Micah in a way that he was not last season, whereas more of maybe a survival situation last season. And again, you mentioned, Tim, the struggles with how he gelled with Quay Walker, and whatever Quay Walker was struggling with, he just didn't seem like the quarterback of the defense that Zaire Franklin seems to be. So I do think that is a bigger factor. And then let's see here. We got our buddy Matthew Tannen here just letting us know the cheese monster will be back. Don't worry. I think that's in reference to Micah Parsons. Appreciate you, Matthew. Good to see you, man. But yeah, so, we could probably start to wrap this a little bit. But, I mean, Andy, is there any defense of your Bears that you need to put up for Packers fans, because we're all kind of taking shots here and we have our biases, but what's your best, case for the Bears? I know you best case scenarios, but just your best sort of closing arguments for the Bears in 2026.
Year 2, Ben Johnson. I mean,
okay.
Arguably, he came on. He even made a lot of mistakes, he would say, as a head coach, and yet still won the division and pushed Caleb to be better. So you have year 2 Ben Johnson. I think statistically, yes, the Bears are going to have a 4,000-yard passer. That argument can be put to bed. All right, it's going to be put to bed. So
first time in over 100 years.
I'll take it. So year 2 Ben Johnson, year 2 Dennis Allen, defensively. Continuity. have not had that as a Chicago Bear fan. So that's my biggest defense.
Okay. Fair enough. And I guess I would say, you Bears fans, quit coming after Jordan Love. If you're going to come at us with criticisms, at least do it with good football knowledge, right? Jordan Love is a good quarterback. He has gotten it done in the playoffs. He's not perfect. Nobody is. But yeah, quit going after Jordan Love. Go at least come at us with the right things, So the kicker missed 7 points worth in a 4-point game. Like that's a layup. But anyway, no, this was fun, Andy. I appreciate you joining us, man, and coming in and having a little back and forth. And it's that time of the off season. We got to start getting creative with the speculation and some of the arguments, and we have nothing but stats to go off of, and stats and hope. But certainly, I think both squads are filled with both a lot of hope, and for good reason. I do believe that there's a realistic scenario where the Packers and the Bears are 1 and 2 in the division. I think the Packers will end up being number 1. We're going to snag that King of the North title from you. We're going to take that back. I hope you enjoyed it, but it's going to come home where it rightfully belongs. But no, the other two, they won't be slouches, but I feel like the Bears and the Packers are the 2 in the division with the most stock up right now. And hopefully we can get a little bit of revenge in the playoffs. I would like that. I would really like that. And we spared you of any Indiana talk. We'll leave that alone. I'm not from Illinois, so honestly, it doesn't bother me as much as some diehard Chicagoans. If there's a new stadium and we can host the Super Bowl, I'm down for it. In Hammond, Indiana. I don't know, man. But, look, I will say as a Packers fan, it does break my heart to understand that the Bears would not be in Chicago. I just feel like that's part of the rivalry. And I lived in Chicago for a couple of years. That's an awesome city, man. To not have the Bears there, I think, is a crime. But nothing the fans can do about it. And so, that has nothing to do with the ball being played here in 2026. I'm certainly looking forward to it. It should be a fun season. Why don't you let them know once again, sir, where they can find you if there are any lonely Bears fans out there this late into the podcast?
Yeah, you can find me on NFL Outdated on Twitter X, on YouTube, on Wednesday nights, 9:30 CST. We're talking NFC North talk on the podcast, and TikTok, Freezing number 4 pod as well. So definitely appreciate coming on. Always, I love talking football with you, Miles. And
yes, sir.
Also with you, Tim, as well. A lot of great stuff. So.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes. No, the Freezing 4 pod is a lot of fun. So you guys got to tune into that. Get a well-rounded NFC North little go around and some good ball knowledge coming out of that show. Usually good ball knowledge. So if you guys been hanging out with us this long, enjoyed the pod, please spike that like button for us. Most importantly, get on over there to the Packers Talk Network YouTube channel. Hit subscribe. Help us find more Packers fans. Bring them with you. Tell them about it. And we will be back next Monday night, 9:30 p.m. Central, streaming live. And of course, as always, go Pack, go.